Hello, and welcome back to Laythe Odyssey. Today we're going to be designing what we need for the next stage of the Odyssey, some scanning satellites and lifting rockets. Now, what you're seeing right now is supposed to be a time-lapse of the other 4 launches I did for the geosynchronous communication satellites. With the launch of GACS-4, which you'll see in a minute, our basic Kerbal relay network is complete. Last time I said that I never really used the whole camera that I put on the lifter, and with the GCS4 launch I got a daytime launch, so I recorded it, and you'll see in a minute watching Kerbal fall away underneath the rocket is pretty awesome. Now just a note about these launches, you'll note that the probe is looking a little bit different than it was in the last episode, and that's because I was having some issues with tweak scale. I don't have a clip of it, I might show a picture of it, but the the probe core, when I go back to the original satellite, gets resized, and so it looks all funny. And so I had to do some editing of a AE's probe core so that I could have a constant size, and I wasn't using tweak scale. And then I just put the other elements back onto it. But otherwise, yeah, the launches were fine. Yeah, we've got 4 geosynchronous communication satellites up there, and they all circularized, and they've got their antennas working, so everything should be good. Because we've got so many, they should stay in place. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Right after the I cut out the fairings, destroyed the camera, so I might need to fix that. But anyway, what we're going to work on right now is a scanning satellite. To be able to colonize, we're going to need to have some information about the planet's surface and where some resources are, especially because the MKS/OKS mod makes you use these resources. Well, we're going to have to scan for them, and we're also going to use some of the ScanSat parts to make sure that we're not landing on uneven ground. So that's what we're going to build today, and the purpose of the satellite, other than to scan those things, is going to be to test some of the technologies involved, such as the scanners in particular. So I thought that would be a good idea to go with a box design for this, just because the box, like the unfolding box, gives a lot of space to mount the instruments on, and so that's really what I'm making here. Originally, I thought it would be a simple box that enclosed the scanner except for the top, but because the scanner unfolds and because otherwise we wouldn't have any room for the other scanning equipment, I'm going to make the entire thing unfold. And so that's what you see here. All the sides move independently of each other, and all I've got left to do is, at least for the scanners, put the scanners on the panels. Make sure that they look good when they deploy, you know, the usual. Anyway, with that done, we just need to think about power. I decided to put the solar panels on the outside of the box and on some of the unpopulated space on the inside, and I was able to use the new part tools to rotate those correctly. But yeah, it should give us a good amount of space for solar panels, and because they sort of flip-flop in all different directions when they get extended, we shouldn't have a problem with places being blocked. Now, because all these instruments require a lot of power, I've got all these huge batteries on it, and yeah, it should work out pretty well. The last thing we need are just some antennas and the propulsion system. I put this jack of fairing right there on the top, or this antenna right there on the top. So yeah, the last thing I have to do now that I've added the propulsion system, which looks suspiciously like it did on the communication satellites, is to do the RCS balancing. And after doing it last time, I realized I actually need to do that the first time. Now, I wasn't sure what to call it because ScanSat is pretty boring, so I scrapped that and I decided to call it the Mapping and Resource Location Satellite, or MRLS. I like silly acronyms like that. And the flag that I use for it comes with ScanSat. It's from an NROL mission, a National Reconnaissance Office launch. It's the octopus strangling the world, and it looks really funny. So I use that. Now the last thing that we're going to do is design a lifter fleet. Last episode I said I wanted to start doing that, and that I hadn't so far. But right now we're going to start that. I'm using the lifter I use for the GCSs to be the base of the fleet, which is what you're seeing right now. I'm putting it in as a subassembly, and so because it resembles a Delta rocket, I'm calling it the Epsilon. Now, the only thing that I miss from this sort of first go over of doing that is that I need to be able to know how much it can lift. So I can use this cool trick with a procedural tank, and because you can change its shape, you can make it weigh different amounts. So I scale it up until it's about 10 tons, and it's like, oh yeah, look at the delta V, that still does pretty well. So you just scale it up until the delta V isn't high enough for basically a LKO orbit. So I ended up getting it up pretty high. I think it's about 20 tons. So because I know that it's 20 tons, I'm going to put that in the description, and just need to get it all ready to be a subassembly now. And there, I'll put it max 20 tons to LKO. Now, I was thinking, like, why not just put some boosters on it and make it a Delta IV Heavy? So I don't call it a Delta IV Heavy, but the next step that I take is to put 2 more common booster cores, change around some engines, and basically make it into almost a Delta IV Heavy replica. It's not exactly the same as the one that comes with Chakamonkey, I'm using a bunch of the Chakamonkey parts, but they do have a subassembly or a blueprint or a stock version of it that I could have used, but you know, making your own things works a lot better for me. So spend quite a while figuring out the boosters and putting lights on them and whatnot. Now, because it's different from the Delta Heavy, I don't want to call it I don't want to call it an Epsilon 4 Heavy because that seems, I mean, I'm still going to call it a heavy lifter, but because I'm changing this upper stage, it becomes a different sort of rocket configuration. It's no longer an Epsilon 4, and so we're just going to call it the Epsilon Heavy because it's a heavy lifter in the Epsilon series. You can see me putting the hull cam back on. That's the final design I decide to go with. I'm like, oh well, we might as well keep going. So I decided to put 2 more boosters on here and make it super heavy. And all I have to do is configure some struts and check out the weight ability, and we should be done. So that's all for this episode. In the next episode, we'll be launching the MRLS and talking about some of the first steps we'll need to take towards colonization. Thanks for watching.